In three, two, one. Hello, Madman Movies coming at you in the month of October, which means only one thing, and it's not Halloween, and it's not horror movies.
It's Halloween and horror movies. What are you talking about?
Exactly. Hello again, Madman Movies Podcast. Thank you very much for this is the end of season 8, so we want to look back and appreciate all of our listeners. Harvey Weinstein, thanks for listening from jail. We really appreciate that. Very thoughtful of you. That shout out to you. I hope you never get out, and hope your life is terrible. But thanks for listening. He is our third most famous listener.
I don't want him to listen. I don't care how famous he is. I don't want him to listen.
But he gives us all the 5-star reviews, though. You know how we got to balance these things out, man. Social media is all about the balance.
It's like getting a 5-star review as a chef from Jeffrey Dahmer. Like, who wants that?
That's a pretty good 5-star review, though. I mean, he knows his things. His things are very specific to him. Hey,
I loved eating here. It tasted just like Earl.
This will not be the last time we talk about Harvey Weinstein on this episode today, and I'm very
Why? What is wrong with you?
Very excited about that. But before we get into those wonderful things, first of all, hello, Matt. How are you today?
I'm all right. How are you?
I am beautiful, lovely, peachy, king indeed, and I want to talk about movies, shall we? Off the top, let's talk about the box office, which is going to roll into another topic, but we'll start with Terrifier 3. A thing that I didn't know was a thing is going to be number 1 at the box office this weekend, which means Joker couldn't even hold on to number 1 spot for 1 week. Let's start with Terrifier 3. Tell me everything you know about that.
If you're expecting, one of these newfangled art house, horror movies, the A24 things, you're not getting that here. This is
think that they would be.
This is a cool character, and there's lots of gore, and that's really all you need to know. And in fact, like if you take a look at the marketing for this, it's all about having the character go around and scare people in places that you don't think he's going to be. And then they have, these photos from theaters where they say, oh, if you're going to throw up, you need to, leave the theater. And, oh, we had this many people walk out because the beginning is so terrifying. And, it's kind of like when they marketed Paranormal Activity, and the trailer was really just the reaction shots of the audience, So there is a simplicity and an honesty to the Terrifier franchise where you know what you're going to get, right? It's a franchise that Terrifier is a franchise that it's kind of like a new version of Friday the 13th, where you're there for the kills.
I know nothing about the movie. I will not be seeing it, but hey, man, if you make it to 3, you're doing something all right.
Especially since these are made super cheap.
Oh, well, I mean, that's
super cheap.
That makes life so much easier. More importantly, as you mentioned, Joker 2 is still in the box office. And you know what? It's not going great. I know that I saw some headlines this morning about worst second weekend ever. I don't even know what that means, but I do know that people are not going to see it. And I do know that maybe, just maybe, there may have been some extra intention behind the negative press that this got. Besides the reviews of the movie? Yes? No? What do you think?
What do you mean?
I mean that maybe there were some people in the media that took exception to the approach to this one. There was no discussion with the Home Office as to how this was made. There was no discussion with James Gunn as he took over everything. And
so this is where you can't have your cake and eat it too, right? Because people keep saying, "Oh, we want." More James Gunn type things where they can just let an artist be an artist, or, the way Nolan did on Batman, or the way Matt Reeves was on Batman. He just got to do his own thing. And we don't want, the Marvel way of doing it where it's all controlled. Okay. Well, then you let Todd Phillips, who's known for knocking it out of the park with sequels, because everybody loves Hangover 2 and 3, right? Everybody loves him. You let him do what he wants. If you're complaining about corporate oversight and let the artist do what he wants, you let the artist do what he wants. And this is what can happen. It's a big gamble. You know?
I sure wish that they would have let Nick Cave do what he wanted to on Gladiator 2, but then they didn't do that. But what are you going to do? It's tough for me because, you know, I still believe that this is kind of a cooperative endeavor, making films and all such things. And even just touching base with me like, yo, this is what we're doing with this character. I know you have a whole other universe coming. You know, what's, you know, just check in. That's all I'm asking. I don't need you to get approval. I don't need you to do all those other things. But if you're going to work within a franchise setting, I feel like you should at least check in on the entire franchise.
Right. Well, okay. Well, so here's where it kind of becomes a finger pointing thing, because the first one made a ton of money. This one, it looks, they're projecting to lose them 150 million. Right. And he made this for way too much money. Like, this is way too expensive of a movie. But whatever. It lost money, and now everyone's pointing fingers, and they're saying, well, he didn't listen to James Gunn. James Gunn sent him notes and he didn't listen. Well, okay. I'm not saying that's not true. I'm definitely not defending Joker or Joker 2. But the thing is, like, we don't know. We weren't on set, right? Like, we don't know if it was he wasn't listening, or if they had meetings and like, yeah, just do what you want because we're doing our own thing. You know, we really don't know, because at some point, like, no one wants to lose their job. And when you release something that loses $150 million, someone's going to lose their job, you know, yes, and possibly not get hired again. So yeah, I don't know. And also, like, having to check with Nolan, like, he hasn't been part of DC like this for over a decade now, right? Like,
yeah.
Okay, so why did you check with him anyway?
That's a good question. I know that
James Gunn's running the thing,
right? Yeah, yeah. It's weird. And are you saying that studios manipulate the news media to make sure that the story is pointing in?
Never. That has never happened. That also, like, I mean, because think about it, Matt. If something like that ever happened, someone in the industry would have pointed it out years ago. Like, there would have been a scene in a big musical where, you know, this woman decides to use the press to get her way and bypass the studio head because she's jealous of the new leading lady, right? Like, that totally would have happened in a big musical in the 50s called Singing in the Rain, but it didn't. So, you know,
luckily we have studios that we can count on for quality releases, like the studio that's about to release Rust. Rust is now hitting its first festival.
Yeah. Can we pause? This is the first time I think on the show you made me snort.
You knew exactly where that was headed.
I did.
Believe this is the thing. We've both been a part.
How is this getting released? Who wants to see it at this point?
I love a good trailer.
Is that how they, like, kept this, like, threw it out of court? They're like, okay, make you a deal. We'll throw this out of court, but you got to release this.
So everybody can see.
That definitely didn't happen. But it's like, why? It seems like taking the tax write-off on this is probably going to be the best thing. I don't know.
Why would it not be?
I'm not an accountant.
It's crazy to me. This is not like this was an art project. You don't have freaking Harmony Korine out here making trash humpers.
So do you think they're banking on morbid curiosity?
Oh, for sure. A bazillion %.
Right? Like, oh, we got to see this. Because is this the scene where he shot the person, you know?
Mm-hmm. My younger self might have been a little bit more interested, since I was here at the time in the state of New Mexico and knew some people that were working within those things. You know, not so much, a little bit different. And
I don't want to see it. Yeah, I don't want to see
it. This, you know, I watch anything. I was watching Maniac Cop 2 last night, and I won't watch this. And
Maniac Cop 2... I actually really prefer the first one, but the second one's good.
It's a reflection on where this business could go. No matter for all the nastiness of some of the people that have been in the business, I don't think they need to release this. I
mean, they still released Twilight Zone movie.
That's fair. That is definitely a big point to
The Crow.
How long?
That scene is still in The Crow.
I know, that's crazy. How long after that happened did they release The Crow? I mean, was it just on a regular schedule? Did they delay?
Yeah, it was because they brought in it was Trent Reznor, right, to shoot the body double stuff, and then they composited clips of his head on him.
And just went with
His
it.
face.
Fast and Furious did half of Paul Walker with his brother and half with CGI. Well, obviously didn't downset or anything.
But yeah, that's the difference. But like, I mean, people die on set, not infrequently. I mean, not enough, really. But
do you remember if that movie that they shot in North Carolina that somebody got ran over by the train, did they ever release that?
I don't think it got finished.
Okay. Well, that's good. I did not
Yeah.
do research for this segment as far as that is concerned.
Speaking of which, I have no idea what sheet you're even on.
Oh, no, you didn't get one this week. This was a text message week.
Okay. All right.
When we talk about it on text message, we keep it on text message.
I like to have it in front of me so I can do research as
Anywho, is there any universe where this is a good thing?
I don't think so. I can't see, like I said, besides morbid curiosity, anyone wanting to watch this. Like I'm not going to watch it because of what happened, right?
Sure.
Even if nothing happened, I probably wasn't going to watch it anyway, Like, so if anyone watches it at this, like, who is looking forward to Rust, before the accident?
People that watch Yellowstone, that would be my target audience, I would guess.
Right, but this is like the Redbox kind of crowd, right?
Yep. Well, that's Yellowstone kind of crowd in a lot of ways.
You're not wrong about that. Okay. but my point is, it's not like it was like going to be like the Horizon, Kevin Costner thing.
No, of course not. But they definitely going to sell it on Alec Baldwin being the main guy, though. I mean, and that was going to be a huge part of the selling point, and I think people were going to watch because of that. No,
I think I would have ever heard about this if it hadn't been for the accident. So either way, I'm not going to watch it.
Rust, not on the to watch list. Noted and noted. Hey, there was a thing that happened on the internet this week. I'm going to wind you up and I'm going to let you go on this. We have different opinions on this, and I'm very excited to talk about that. An AI video that was created by somebody that said they spent $750,000 on it to make a trailer of a thing that was already a thing, and then they kind of just basically remade it just with
the Princess
AI.
Mononoke. Yeah.
Give me all the deets on this. How we feeling? Why did this come about? What's the future? All those things. Go.
Okay. So you know how animation is really difficult, and you have to know how to, draw and understand motion, understand timing, and it takes a long time to get good at it, whether it's hand drawn or computer animated.
These are all accurate statements, yes?
Okay. And how, like, if you're doing computer animation, that means you also have to know how to model and rig characters. You have to composite. You have to be able to light. You have to move. And that's if you're doing it on your own, right? Mm-hmm. You have to know how to do so many different things. And it's so difficult. It takes so much time. Okay. Well, wouldn't it be cool if there was a machine and you could just type into it, do a live action remake of Princess Mononoke? One of the most famous movies from one of the most famous animators to ever live, one of the most famous filmmakers to ever live. So this dude spent a ton of credits. That's what he spent the money on, right?
Yeah.
Processing power. In order to do a live action. But again, it's not live action if you're not shooting it. Otherwise, it's just photorealistic animation. And it's AI photorealistic animation that is based off of Miyazaki's work. So this person didn't do anything. He paid for computing power to let a computer basically give you its interpretation of what it would be from multiple different sources. There's no talent involved. It's lazy. It looks bad. It's soulless. And it's everything that people who work in the industry are fighting against. Because guess what? If you're doing, you couldn't do something like this on your own without it taking years, right?
Sure.
Back in the day of like the 90s, when the golden age or the silver age of Disney hand-drawn animation. These things are still taking 4 years to make with hundreds of artists, right? So on your own, take a lifetime. And that takes time. That takes money. And that's not counting all the time it takes to get good at the disciplines required to create this. So by doing this, you're literally making something that's worse and killing thousands of jobs in the process. It's immoral, it's unsustainable, and it's intellectually bankrupt.
All those things being said, especially those last three things, that means that's exactly what the studios are going to do, because that's
100%.
to do.
100%.
So
Right.
the conversation, part of the conversation we had the other day was how, if this is inevitable, how do we work within this? How do we help? How do we make this more of an artistic creation? It helps continue to have people have jobs and that kind of stuff.
The fact that this,
welcoming that in. I mean, how do we do it?
Okay, so the fact that there was no gatekeeping behind it and it just went straight to the public means that there's no working with it at this point. Because honestly, AI, if you wanted to use it as a tool to help you, to where it's like, I could do this on my own, but I'm going to speed up my process, right? Like, if you're in Photoshop and if you have to erase somebody, instead of cloning, patching, stuff like that, using generative AI to fill in the gaps, if you're doing that on your own, that's kind of a different thing. Not quite, but it's a little bit of a different thing. The problem is everyone gets immediately. And I'm looking kind of like 20, 30 years down the road. And you're going to have a generation of people who are creating content who don't know how to do it without a computer, who don't know how to do it without a computer doing it for them. Honestly, we should treat it like owning a gun. Like you don't get to use one. Like you don't get to have it, or like alcohol, let's say. Like you don't get it until you're an adult and you know how to use it responsibly. But we've already passed that point. Like kids are already using ChatGPT on their assignments in class. And if you look at how Adobe, of all people, how Adobe is advertising it, it's for kids, where there's a kid on a computer and they just type in castle, unicorn, and they choose different ones and they cut and paste. And it's like, now you can make art, but you're not making art, right? It's worse than clip art because you can get specific with it, right? And someone had to make the clip art. At least that was still employing people.
Yeah, that little the clip art, he made them all, right?
Right. But this is going to bankrupt us artistically, and it's just going to flat out bankrupt us, because I don't understand how we're going to be able as a society to keep people fed and keep people in jobs if we just outsource everything to AI, unless we go to like a universal basic income.
Here on Political Madman Movies Podcast, I also agree with the universal basic income. God forbid we give everybody a little something, something. This is the future. I don't know how to deal with it as of yet, but it is here. It's going to be a thing. I just hope that we can all kind of figure out how to work within this space. We will see.
But it is 100% what studios are gonna do. It's 100%.
One of my favorite websites, yeah, that's still a thing, as well as one of my favorite podcast networks. The Ringer had a list of the 75 best Tarantino characters in all of his movies. And you know what? I love that idea. We are not going to do 75 today. We're going to do 5. No. But I just thought that this would be a perfect exercise for us. Recently, I've even got some new fancy toys that fit within the universe. Maybe this little character, maybe Go-Go is one of my favorites. I don't know. About to find out. So I give you the first choice on this. Now, it's however you want. I went a little bit weirder because I didn't really necessarily want us to duplicate. You may have gone weird as well. I don't know. So start off at the top. Where do you want to start? Who do you want to talk about first?
So I'm limiting myself to one use of Christoph Waltz.
That's fair.
Because honestly, I could go with either of his,
Hmm.
but I think I gotta go with the dentist.
Oh, yes. Excellent choice.
First of all, Django. I don't know if it's his best movie, but it might be my favorite of his.
Hmm.
And I mean that, and you can say that of literally anybody involved in that movie.
Sure. Yeah, for sure, for sure.
But yeah, that's who I'm going with.
Excellent choice. I remember seeing that on Christmas Day at Tarantino's Theater. It was a fantastic experience. That dude, that was a fine. I mean, he was still doing stuff, obviously before, but Tarantino being able to put him in some of these roles that I just honestly don't think anybody else could do. And you know what? We may go back to him later. I don't know yet.
Hmm.
Or we do. Boy, first one's a toughie. But you know what? I think I'm gonna have to go. I mean, this is probably gonna be my biggest one. I got some hidden ones later. First one, I'm gonna go with The Bride from Kill Bill.
Okay, well that's one of mine.
To be
So-
able to see that in the theater for the first time, I saw it in the giant theater.
Oh man.
Gonna mark up off of 635, and the experience that I had with that movie with Uma Thurman playing the bride. Everything about that movie was spectacular, was perfect. Blowing her head off in the beginning, and her trip through the world of being able to find Bill and to kill him, she was fantastic in every way, shape, or form. Can't even tell you what be Uma Thurman's second best role because she was so good and that character in that role. So I say The Bride, Kill Bill is going to be my first choice.
Okay. I'm going with the Kill Bill character for my second choice.
Yes.
A movie. I wish I had a whole movie about this character.
Talk to me.
Bud.
Oh, yes. Oh,
My God. I know a lot of people like Kill Bill Volume 1 better. I prefer Volume 2. Because I want to follow Bud for most of his life. Like he's such an interesting character. His boss is one of my favorite one-time appearances of a character. Like he's
to the elbow.
and he just holds it there. And also, I gotta say, fucking with your cash is the only thing you kids seem to understand. I don't know how many times I've said that to myself since I started producing stuff.
That is a life lesson.
It's so true.
Yep, for sure. For sure. Excellent choice. I love that one as well. Oh, man. Sometimes Bud, that guy with all his spit and stuff. Oh, disgusting. Can I give you Alabama Whitmore? Anybody? That character for all my insanity and in my younger days and the fascination with a woman such as that loved movies and would go to a quadruple feature, triple feature, whatever that was. May have also been a hooker. Those kind of things. Like, was fascinated with her from beginning to end. There was never I never saw her as a weak character, which so many times female characters are. That character is something that I'll always be in love with. Always bring me to a happy place when I think about her. Was her accent perfect? Nope. Doesn't matter. Still loved it. Still loved her. Alabama Whitmore is my number 2.
My number 3 is another Django character.
Give it to me. Let's go deep. Are we going? Oh, Sam or Leo? Sam or Leo?
Honestly, you could put either of them on there because I think it might be both of their best performances of all time.
Yes.
But I'm going with Sam as Stephen.
Excellent choice. Yo.
The story about him taking the role. It's like, you expect me to play the most despicable? It's like, yeah. It's like, okay, let's do it.
Fine. Where do I sign? When do we start? Right. Oh, his commitment to that was just, yeah.
The best is there are about a dozen times in that movie he could have given up the fact that he wasn't, like, he didn't need the cane and he wasn't crippled. There are like a dozen done it. Like honestly, if he had done it after he had caught Django and Django was hanging upside down, that would have been a great reveal. But the fact he does it right before getting killed, that he held on to the lie for so long, tells you a lot about his character and the fact that you're like, oh my God. Like the whole shaking, all of that, like it was a put on so he could stay safe.
Yep. Do what you got to do.
And like, because he was basically the one who ran the house, and it's like there's so much depth to it without having to say a word. It's just one of my favorite characters of all time.
Chef's kiss to that. I considered going Michael Keaton and Jackie Brown,
Ooh.
but I'm afraid that you're going to take my next character if I did that. So I'm going to go with Max Cherry from Jackie Brown. Robert Forster's quintessential role.
I didn't put him on my list because I knew you would.
I got to, man. I can't pass Max Cherry up. Everything about that character. You know, he's cool, but not too cool. There's a lot of 70s detective in him. Robert Forster's history in films kind of comes into play with that character. The way he works with Pam Grier back and forth together. Know what? Again, that's another role. Yeah, somebody else could have played it, would have never been as good. Thank God that Tarantino has an eye for those kind of characters and those kind of actors. Thank God he decided to do one movie that he didn't write, and I'm glad he picked this one. Max Cherry, for the win, Jackie Brown.
That is a fantastic choice.
I may go watch that after this.
You know what? When we were talking about this, that's exactly how I've been feeling too. It's like, man, I should watch that again. And
even still, my first scene I usually think of is Chris Tucker, just because he comes in and he's just like, oh my God, yes, glorious. All right, up to you.
Stuntman Mike. I almost chose John from Hateful Eight because I love him, but he's a little more one note, than Stuntman Mike. But man, I love Stuntman Mike.
Excellent performance by that. Still, you know what? I was watching that movie a couple weeks ago, and I remembered actually how good that was. It was such a weird time whenever it came out, and it didn't do as well. But I just don't think people were there. They weren't ready for that.
No. Well, it's also like I remember I saw that opening night at the Grove, and they had a guy come in to explain to everyone what we were about to see. How it's like, you're going to watch a movie, and then there are going to be some fake trailers, and then another movie's going to start. So don't leave. And people were like, come on, we know. But if they had someone come out and say that, it means they did like previews the night before and people left.
Yeah.
So I think it was an experiment that I wish would have worked, because we could have had a whole series of these things. With different filmmakers.
So much fun.
Yeah.
All right, 2 minutes on the clock for the rest of this segment, so let's get into it. Number 4 for me is gonna have to be a character that I probably referred to people the most as. I used to have a friend that was definitely like that, show up in a matter of moments, and that was that with that. The Wolf from Pulp Fiction, Harvey Keitel, showing up at 7 o'clock in the morning in a tuxedo to take care of the situation. Out of all the characters in all the Tarantino universes, this may be the coolest, the one that just does his thing and does it to the best of his abilities. It even spawned that Brad Pitt, George Clooney movie that I didn't want to watch, but I still watched the other day. Anywho, The Wolf is my number 4 choice.
How was The Wolf?
No. No, let's not waste any time on that. Yeah. Moving on. No.
All right. So my 5th is Rick Dalton.
Ah, nice.
It's the best acting I've ever seen.
It is the best acting that I too have ever seen. Once Upon a Hollywood is our warm blanket, so I might as well give you the other side of that. I'm going to
thank you.
Booth. I can't leave Cliff off. It was so important. He has loomed large on my list. Anyhow, both of those guys together. I mean, what
do you think he did it?
Absolutely. 100%. Well, because I read the book, so I know that he.
Well, the book's different. So, do you think he did it?
But yes, I do think that he did it. Thank God that they both made the list. Glory days for both of them. Steve Buscemi as a waiter in Pulp Fiction, love that as well. Mr. Pink, again, Steve Buscemi. I could have listed all Steve Buscemi characters as well.
I could have listed almost everyone from Django Unchained. Like, for real. Like, everyone in that is incredible. Also, I want to give real quick shout out to Walton Goggins in Hateful Eight.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Lance from Pulp Fiction is somebody I've always wanted to be. Maybe one day I'll be that cool in my robe, eating cereal, yelling at my lady, answering the phone at 9 o'clock at night.
As long as you're not Melvin.
You shot him in the face, man.